we had a pretty interesting conversation, if I remember correctly, during on the Discord. We were talking to there was somebody on the Discord basically talking about the usual stuff, right? Like how some people are jumping into fighting games and they get steamrolled and they have no idea what they're doing. So, you know, I noticed that the usual cycle of advice begins, with myself included. Like, you know, you're what do you feel like you're doing wrong? You have to stop, you know, you gotta stop and block. You gotta start thinking a little bit about the matchup. But you know, some of the more recurring things that, you know, people always talk about in fighting games is you're playing to win. You have to stop playing to win and play to learn, which isn't a wrong thing to say, right? I mean, it's not wrong to say that, because in order to win, that's the concept we have in our heads, is that if we want to win, we have to learn. But I think that's problematic in and of itself, to tell somebody that you should stop playing to win. I think that's a little problematic, because we all play to win. I mean, why are we playing games to begin with? And we want to win. And what's the idea of learning? The idea of learning is that we want to learn in order to win. So I think it kind of devalues a little bit when we say to somebody that you have to stop playing to win, you have to start playing to learn. Then after that conversation, I kind of had like a completely separate conversation with somebody else at work related to a student. So we have like this student in the school who, he's like this Hong Kong kid who basically, it kind of seems like he's basically different. I'm not a doctor of any sorts to be able to diagnose somebody, but it kind of feels like he might be on the spectrum, or something might be a little different about him. Anyway, my fellow teacher was asking me, like, hey, you know, I'm kind of worried that he's not getting anything out of the class because he's not participating, and the other students don't even know how to interact with him in groups and stuff. And that kind of got me thinking about the other conversation, and I was thinking, what if the problem here is that a person can't learn, not because they don't want to learn, but because they're not ready to learn? There is like this concept of learning readiness that some theorists have talked about, and it's something that oftentimes eludes us. And I think it sort of applies to fighting games as well as any other learning. Like language learning is one of the hardest things that you can do, right? So in order to be able to fully absorb and assimilate knowledge about a language and be able to use it, you kind of have to be ready for it. You know, I mean, if you have things that are blocking you from learning, that's gonna stop you from learning. That's not gonna allow you to learn. So that's what I told my colleague, was that you need to first make sure that the student is part of the class community, that he is able to work with other people and is ready to understand your flow as a teacher before he can start actually participating and learning and then getting something out of the class. And I think that kind of applies also to fighting game players who are new to the games. Especially, they have a lot of hangups, and I think that being ready to learn kind of has to come from your own little personal introspection. I mean, when you're in a classroom setting, you kind of have a teacher who can sort of guide you, and maybe your classmates can also kind of give you a little bit of feedback. But when you're playing video games, even if you're part of a community, sometimes you're not that open to accepting other people's feedback very quickly. So everything has to start with a little bit of introspection. I know I had this tremendous problem when I started playing Street Fighter 4 seriously. And when I say seriously, I don't mean like professional level, but I was in China. There were arcades, there were tournaments going on, so I wanted to get better. And we had this little community of foreigners, and we were all playing together, but everybody was always steamrolling me all the time. I was just absolutely terrible. And I just couldn't overcome this notion, this idea in my head that I'm supposed to be better than this. And the reason for that was because I used to be the good fighting game player back in my own country, back when I was younger and I was steamrolling my friends and my brother. But the thing is that if you're steamrolling people who are not that into the game as you are, you're not really exactly a good player. So that's the thing about me. I had to get over this hang up that I am actually good, and I have to get over this, and I have to start accepting that I need to learn some new things, and I need to learn how to approach the game in a different way in order to actually start learning and actually start winning. And it took me a really long time, because I was beyond salty at those times. I was beyond salty, but I was definitely not ready to learn at all. And my friends would constantly tell me, you're literally not playing the same game as us. And that kind of stuck with me at the time. It was like, why, what do they mean I'm not playing the same game? So I couldn't figure it out. And it just, at some point, the whole idea of growing and building up my skills in a fighting game kind of picked up like towards the tail end of my time in China, and a little bit more towards my time here, the beginning of my time here in Brighton. And it's only just clicked to me that the problem has always been that I don't have the right mindset for learning. And that has to start with any new endeavor you take on in life. You have to be ready to start climbing that mountain before you actually start climbing it. And I think it all starts with the first thing, and that is related to winning. First of all, it's not bad to want to win. That should be the ultimate goal. We can't devalue that. We shouldn't take that away from players. And let's not forget also, the game, literally, when you first jump in and you're losing, it constantly tells you, you lose, you lose, you lose. And I think that's problematic for a person, like, to see like you lose. It's literally, the game is telling them you're either winning or you're losing, and that's the only feedback they get. So to get over that, you have to start thinking, okay, I'm losing, but in order to win, what do I have to do? Like, that is the first question that has to pop into your mind. And in order to win more, you have to learn more. And that's how you have to start getting over the hangups. You have to start from ground zero. What is it that I need to do to learn better? Okay, I need to block more. That's always something with new players. They don't block enough. Or I need to stop my opponent from doing what they're doing. But how do I do it? How can I stop my opponent from doing things? And that's where the experimentation kind of has to start coming in. You have to be willing at that point to say, okay, I don't know anymore. So since I know I need to win, I know I need to learn what I need to do in order to win, and I don't know what I need to do in order to win, I need to start experimenting. A little trial and error, a little learning, a little research. Join the Discord. Even if you're not a social person, like, you have to kind of accept that it's going to be a tough ride until you're able to learn enough to start winning more. I had to have this chat with one of my other students. It's like this French student who just can't get over the fact that French and English are two completely different languages. It's not that the concept of these two languages being different is alien to him. It's just that he doesn't understand how the nitty-gritty of the languages, like the way the rules work, the way the grammar works, how they're different. And he gets frustrated. I was explaining to them about grammatical articles, on, and the other day, and he just couldn't understand why they were used in a particular situation. And I explained it, and he just turns on to me, this is not how it works in French. And I'm like, yes, but it works this way in English. And he just went, oh, what does that mean? That means that is a sign of a person who's just not ready yet to learn. And that is a person who needs to first start and be guided to accepting that they don't know, and that they have to understand that there are differences, and that these differences need to be learned little by little. And it's the same with fighting game players. So instead of telling people, hey, you need to stop playing to win, we need to start telling them, to win, you have to first of all, stop thinking that the game is played in a certain way, and start learning how the game is actually played. So take a back step, understand for yourself for a moment there, what is it that you need to do, what you need to learn in order to get a step closer to winning. Like, winning, we should never take that away from people. That's what they need to do. We all had to do that. People who were playing and busting their asses in the arcade back in the day, they would pump in coin after coin after coin, get beaten to death over and over again, but they would still pump in that coin. Why? Because they wanted to win. That has always been the driving force behind learning how to play fighting games. And I don't think it should be any different for anybody else who joins this community. And I think if we sit down and actually give people the right information, give them the right guidance, tell them exactly what it is they could do better, in order to grow, in order to improve and get closer to that W, what it means to actually hold that L. What does that mean when we say it?